What's on your mind, Wimpy?
Chris and PlayOnLinux probably know the answer to this. So I've got an old microphone with a screw hole in the bottom of it that I imagine is some sort of standard. Is it a standard?
Yeah. It's for like mounting on a tripod.
Yeah. What I was thinking is, could I get like an arm that I can attach to the desk and screw this into it? And do I have to buy anything clever or specific, or is it just a general thing?
No.
Does it look?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, does it look like it's about 5/8 of an inch? Because that is a really great arm that uses a standard microphone 5/8 inch mount.
Okay, I'm going to have to get my granddad's ruler out of the garage to tell you if it's 5/8 of an
Well, the
inch.
chances are, if there's a screw hole at the bottom of the microphone, I highly doubt it would be anything else. But just the same, you may like. Do you have any other microphone stand that you can look and see? There is a standard, and I believe it's 5/8 of an inch.
No, this is an old mic. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay, that looks about similar. So the reason I'm saying about getting my granddad's thing out is because we're metric over here now for measurements. So although we can speak feet and inches and all the rest of it, when you get down to sub-inch measurements, I've got no idea what that looks like. But okay.
If you wanted a desktop boom arm, though, that is what I would get, because it comes with both the clamp and the mount, so you can either screw it into the desk or you can clamp it down onto the edge of a desk, and it's still only $50.
Bound
And it's private eligible.
Yeah, I prefer to screw
And
into
what
the desk.
about?
You're on a roll today.
It's because of the photos
One
we were
after
taking before the
another.
show started. I think we got things
Really?
rolling.
I can see why you've got 3 kids, Chris.
I'm a Scorpio.
What about isolators? The rings that you mount the
Oh
mic
yeah, like the
into.
spider mount.
Yeah. Are they any good?
Well, they'll help you from stuff like kind of noise transfer like this from the table, or like when we this is like me picking up Angela's water bottle. They'll help isolate
Is that
some
what
of
that
that.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really hear that. So the thing is that obviously I've got my keyboard and what have you on the desk, so I'm thinking I might want to be typing and clattering away whilst I'm doing stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it's nice to have a spider mount, especially if you're not doing video. Then that's the only reason I don't have one really, is because they're horrible on video. They cover half your face in front of a camera.
Yeah. I haven't got that to worry about. And frankly, if anything covered my face up, I have a face for radio.
Yeah. And what mic are you using? I know you've told us once before, but
I couldn't tell you. It's
okay.
Some old crap that I had when I used to be in a band that I got out the loft. There's no brand or model number on it. It's just a generic mic that I've Jimmy rigged with some USB adapters.
Yeah, I don't
Sounds
know.
good.
I think the AT220 is like there's an AT that's a good USB mic.
AT2020, I believe. And then they have the AT2020 USB, which has a built-in analog to digital converter.
That's nice. PlayOnLinux is switching to Java. Did you guys see that?
Really?
Yeah.
In 2015, that's what they're doing.
And PlayOnLinux is switching to. I know. They even have a little of the screenshot up here. So I guess part of the reason is because Ubuntu 15.10 is going to drop Python 2, and their main problem was WX Python. Even WX Python 3.0 does not support Python 3x. PlayOnLinux's version code is really ugly, and we don't want to maintain it any longer. Moreover, because of bad design and changing WX Python to another library as much as it takes, as much effort, we can completely rewrite the program. We really want to have clean code for PlayOnLinux 5. Python is really great, but working with a dynamically typed has a lot of drawbacks when it comes to design and strong designed architecture. So they're going to have the core written in Java. PlayOnLinux 5 scripts would be written in Python. Goodbye Bash. With a PlayOnLinux version 4 Bash script interpreter would be written in Python for backwards compatibility. PlayOnLinux going Java. Is this going to kill it, you think?
I've got so many things going through my mind at the moment. Well, I'm very familiar with Python and Wix, and Wix never really delivered on its promise. Unfortunately, we have an application at work that we developed in Wix, and we realise now that was not such a smart move. But 6 years ago, that looked like the right thing to do. If we were doing it today, we'd use one of the cute wrappers for Python. We'd still use Python though. But going to Java because of a widget library issue seems like an unusual rationalization.
Right. I'm wondering if there must have been a preference in the team for Java already. This just made it easier.
If they're strong on Java programming skills, then that would be the reason why it makes sense.
Yeah. So why Java, not another language? As said, Java is static and a compiled language. It means that it's easier to write clean code. And it also means that a large part of the problems are detected during compilation to avoid bugs. But Java is a good choice for several other reasons. The code would be compatible with Linux and OS X with no effort. I guess OS X is an issue. It's also
true of Python.
Yeah.
Frankly.
It's the most widely spread language. There's another reason for them. And there are many frameworks and libraries we could use to measure code quality to run tests. Boy, those are not super strong reasons, in my opinion.
And
because a lot of people use it as not a...
Except,
yeah, a lot of that applies.
I saw a banner. I don't know if it was an advert or something from Oracle saying, Java on 6 billion devices. But of course, most of those are Android, which they would contest is actually Java.
I think it's Mac support. PlayOnLinux wants to target Mac OS. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just use...
Is that a big gaming platform?
No, that's why I think it's silly. But, I have talked to the CEO of Crossover, and it is what keeps their business afloat. In fact, he told me that if it wasn't for the Mac sales, they probably would have shut down. They still make their Linux product, but they make the majority of their revenue on the Mac sales. I think it's just a larger user base. But, the Macs have such crappy video cards across the board on average. So, half of their line just ships with only Intel graphics. Qt seems like it would have been a lot more sensical, and I just don't get Java, so unless it's for OS X, don't you think?
Well, like I say, we maintain multi-platform tools in Python at work. Not Mac as it happens, but Windows and Linux.
Okay.
And there are some, the same and similar issues. We have slightly more complex issues than most because of the nature of the work that we do. So the abstractions that we have to do are very low down, sort of at the hardware layer. But maintaining a multi-platform application on, for a Python application or a Java application is about the same, really. If you're not doing anything too clever, it sounds like they're using it mostly for their front end rather than the back end. So I'd have thought, well, there's lots of languages that would have been straightforward. But yeah, maybe they've got people on the team that are particularly proficient in Java, and that's why it makes sense, because they can speed up the development and rapidity of their iterations, maybe. So every year this Mother's Day thing gets me. Every year I have palpitations and a moment where I think, oh, shit a brick, I've forgotten Mother's Day.
Well,
I'm in so much trouble. And then I remember, actually, we did that 3 months ago.
Yeah, I was just going to say, isn't yours like before
it's in March.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Hilarious.
But Twitter, Facebook, and Google Plus are just full of it's Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day, and you just have this oh shit moment.
Yep.
And it's a new thing ever since I've been on the social networks in the last 3 years, and you suddenly think, oh.
Well, and it's just getting worse too. Like this Mother's Day.
Who's flapping?
I don't know. I think it's Noah.
Somebody's flapping.
It's like everybody was saying Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah,
like
it's
no
Day
longer
was a big deal this year.
It's no longer just Happy Mother's Day to your moms.
Yeah,
it's everybody out there.
If you're a mom, you get a
and like I don't.
It's too much.
I think it's the Hallmark holiday that I'm just like not interested in.
Oh, you say that, but then if I hadn't gotten you anything, you would have been interested in.
No. Private celebration is fine.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I just
private celebration where you get something.
So publicly making it awkward. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't want to say Happy Mother's Day to my mother-in-law and my mom on Facebook, and I do want to say Happy Mother's Day to some friends of mine, but I don't want to. I don't want to do an all-encompassing one, and I don't
Yeah.
just want to do them because then
Yeah.
other friends might be like, "Why aren't they? Why isn't she saying it to me?" Like, it's just stupid.
It's complicated.
Yeah, just send private messages.
The answer to this is a PHP script.
Yeah, you're right.
Probably. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's converting one Mac user over to Linux at a time. My name is Chris.
And I'm Angela.
Hey there, Angela. You are the Mac user
Here I am.
was speaking of.
Yes. Guilty.
And I figured, if I could start there and work my way out.
Okay.
That's one person at a time.
One.
And actually, it's not only have we switched one person, but so far it's stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Angela just recently switched over to Linux. She's rocking a Lenovo Yoga 3, and we'll get an update from her. And she's got like 3 or 4 tough questions, Linux desktop questions that she's going to pose to our virtual lug today. Put them to the test and see if they can solve some of the problems that she's ran into in her switch to Linux. And I think you will be surprised, and not surprised at some of them. Plus, in the show, we're going to talk about Ubuntu's jump into the Internet of Things with their good buddy, Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft and Canonical announced a pretty big partnership along with GE and others to ship Ubuntu on Internet of Things devices. What the hell does that mean? And what does this fridge do? We're going to talk about all of that. Plus, we're going to talk about the chip computer, the world's first $9 computer that runs Linux, and what some of the cool things we could do with that. Plus, we've got some follow-up, some catch-up, some feedback. It's a really, really big show. So before we go any further, it is now our duty to bring in our mumble room. Time-appropriate greetings, virtual lug.
Hello. Greetings.
Hello, guys. Hi, guys. Hi. Hey, this is a story we've been following on the show, and I just want to do a little follow-up before we get into all of the meat, just to kind of keep a trail going for this new Debian project leader that was elected recently, and the whole talk around PPAs coming over to Debian. Well, he sat down over at linux.com for an interview, and they asked all kinds of questions. I'll link to that in the show notes if you guys want to read them. But I wanted to get right in on this PPA thing, because I think this is some interest to some of us. He says, there's hundreds of PPAs for Ubuntu. This is the question. Will they work with Debian? McGovern says, I think this is unlikely. Although Debian has a good relationship with Ubuntu and other downstream distributions, we have different focuses. Keeping all of the main libraries in sync would create a lot of effort to allow this to happen, and it's not something we really have time to do while developing our own distribution. So because of the library differences, Ubuntu PPAs probably won't work on Debian. How difficult will it be for developers who have Ubuntu PPAs to port them over to Debian, he was asked? McGovern answers, I don't think it would be particularly hard, but they're really two different things. Essentially, the work is creating a Debian-compliant package, and then a lot of the preliminary work has been done by creating the Ubuntu package anyways. So, Ange, you're not using Ubuntu, but on Ubuntu, there is a way you can get this thing called a PPA. It's like a personal package archive. And what that is like, say you wanted to get a version of Chrome, and you wanted to make sure you always got the latest version of Chrome when Google pushed out a new one, you could go get a Chrome PPA, and it's a personal archive that you could go then get that software from Google, and then they would keep updating it for you directly from their servers when you do part of your regular system updates. Okay. So these PPAs are like little ways for software makers to put out software to Linux desktop, and then people to come sort of subscribe to it to get updates. It's kind of nice.
Right.
But Ubuntu is like one of the few distributions that does this kind of system. But Ubuntu is based on Debian. And Debian is considering implementing a system like this, so Debian users have sort of the same functionality. But the two systems will not be compatible. So you have two systems, similar name, similar function, but if you make a PPA for Ubuntu, you won't be able to have that PPA run on Debian.
Wow, that's dumb.
Yeah, that's what happens.
They why do they conflict? Why can't they both be subscribed?
Because the Ubuntu computers have a different set of libraries that the programs use than the Debian computers.
Oh.
And the developers can't expect both to be on.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of unfortunate, though, right? I mean, from an end user's perspective, that seems a little confusing.
But you either run Ubuntu or you run Debian.
Right, but
so
so what that actually means is exactly right. Is there's going to be a lot more. There'll always be more stuff available for Ubuntu because there's more people on the desktop using Ubuntu, things like that.
Is this one way for like software makers to keep a pulse on how many people are actually using their product?
Yeah, for sure, because they're going to get download stats off the repo and stuff. So you're going to see every time somebody connects to pull off. So it gives you an idea of how many people are keeping their software up to date. So it gets you an idea of how many users are out there using it. Yeah. Mumble Room, any thoughts?
Well, the download thing, they don't really give you much information at all. Like they give you like a simple download
Yeah,
thing, but it's not.
You get a number. You get an idea of how many people have downloaded that package, but there's no real great metrics.
I just hope that Debian doesn't call it PPA. That way, there's no confusion.
Well, they have been calling them PPAs so far.
I think they're just kind of describing what they're going to be. But if they call them something else, that would be much better because then there wouldn't be any confusion. Like, well, this PPA is for Ubuntu and this is for Debian. And so on.
Yeah, we'll follow it. We'll see what happens.
The thing is, in order to submit a a package to an Ubuntu PPA for building, you have to create a Debian source package. So once I've done that, I could send that to the Ubuntu PPA system and whatever Debian's, user package repository is.
DPA, I like it.
It's the same thing. Yeah. What would we call it the other day? Dump. Debian user managed packages.
I like that a lot.
Hey, did you take a dump?
Yeah, put that in the dump. That's pretty good, actually. All right. We have talked a lot about Wayland on the show. We've talked about how great it's going to be, how it's going to change everything. Well, Mandre writes in. He says, hello, Mumble Room and Chris and Angela.
Yay.
He says, why do all of you want to switch to Wayland so freaking badly? When replacing X, do you not want to replace it with something more useful? Wayland throws all usefulness and even usability out the freaking window. In Wayland, security trumps all, always. Performance does too, it seems. Ironically, most implementations will probably not even support online updating. And in the core of Wayland, we have only very basic functionality, drawing onto a buffer, support for input devices, and some very limited output protocols. Wayland is inherently inflexible. If anyone wants to add additional functionality, they must do it in the compositor, the window manager, and then publish the protocol. If this is even up to all other compositors, window managers, and etc. to then support that protocol. What if the two compositor teams and the window manager teams write two different protocols to do the same thing? Naturally, there's some basic functionality missing in Wayland. Wayland does not support screenshotting. Wayland doesn't support screen recording, global hotkeys, clipboards, I think, or gamma correction. All has to be done in the compositor. And this is just very basic functionality. But to finish it all off, Wayland is not network transparent, and networking is a nightmare. Don't you realize that this is the future? And in the future, more devices are interconnected and network-oriented, not less? Security, schmearity, performance, smormance. Mandre. Wow. This guy does not like Wayland.
What is Wayland? Like, what would you compare it to?
Wayland's what's going to get in real simple terms, Wayland's is what's going to get stuff up on your screen. That's going to get the graph. This right here, this is an X11 graphics environment, right? So when I move this window around on my screen, that's X11 that's drawing that on my screen. Wayland's going to replace that, but it's basically a whole new way to do it. Totally new work needs to be done on the desktop environment ends and on their compositors. And Mandre brings up some good points. The stuff that comes, so with X, you get some of the stuff just built in. By having X, you get some of these features. And with Wayland, you have to write some of your own. And so on that,
they're going to not ever offer those? Or is it just because it's currently not available as a stable release anyway?
Because the Wayland developers think that it's not up to the server to do that stuff. It's up to the clients to do that stuff. You want to do screen recording, it should be the client. It should be the compositor that does that, not the back-end infrastructure.
Oh, the client is definitely the thing that should take care of something when it comes to user-facing interaction. But no, any keyboard or mouse or interactions with hardware to the compositor all go through KMS and UVDev. It is kernel. Then it goes up to the compositor, which it then filters out throughout the Wayland clients.
And did you guys see a friend of the show, Martin, the KWin developer, just said after years of work, this was 2 days ago, the master KWin branch now has become a proper Wayland compositor. So KWin and GNOME both have rockin' Wayland support. And they're doing those things in the compositor. That's where they're getting it done at. And
so there must be a benefit, right? Because why would is it just a way to redo something and potentially make it better?
I could be wrong. I think the real true benefit is they're trying to build something that can last 20 years. And so if you build some of this stuff in and how we do it in 2014 or 2015, well then in 2025 or whatever, we're 2030 when we're using it, maybe we want a completely different way to record our screens. If you do that in the desktop environment, that's just my generic way of saying the compositor or whatever, that's much more nimble. You can make the change there much quicker than pushing it out to the server that affects every Linux distribution on the planet.
Right.
So instead of just affecting a desktop environment. That's
also the X architecture is kind of from the 80s, which is based on x86. So all the code is very, very old, and it's all insecure by default. Wayland is trying to be secure by default, and that's why it's a little bit hard for Wayland programs at the moment, since everything is a little bit immature in order to communicate between each other.
Yeah, it is. That's basically the issue, is like sometimes the security is just a little too tight and it makes doing what they're trying to do a little impossible. I don't know.
Didn't one of the X developers themselves that is working on Wayland denounce how X was doing their own code itself?
Yeah.
And then another benefit I see is that if it's not on if the client needs to change and adapt, then Wayland doesn't need to change and adapt. That way, they kind of future-proof it in a way.
Right.
So if something changes, you don't have to worry about the graphics layer.
And then the other advantage too is if you're building for a very extreme, unique use case, something like an embedded device that's maybe like a small embedded screen that's a presentation mode, you don't have to modify the entire back-end infrastructure to accommodate this one-off. You just build that into that compositor that particular device is using. I mean, it makes sense to me, but it's a big transition. Yeah, Q5sys, producer Q5sys says, wait till Wayland gets rolled into systemd. I'm hoping they roll in the kernel, you'll roll in Wayland, just get all one big Linux D. Well, we'll call it the D. That'll be good.
I hope I get the D.
Hey, you know what?
That's a shot, everybody.
Hello, take a shot.
For me, it's I don't understand the problem because the Yola phone already uses Wayland and they already have all the features like screen sharing and all that. So it's actually not that big of an issue to implement it.
Right, I guess in practice it actually hasn't been that bad.
Yeah, and security is, with all the NSA stuff, I think security needs bigger focus because really if you read some of the recent breaches, taking security as a backseat because of usability is not a good thing. It's not a big deal, I think. Basically, if you look at it this way.
Oh, and there is a point where you have to start taking it, security seriously, and you have to start making compromises. And I also think that we sometimes get trapped in dogma, thinking things will never change, or that we can't build a better system once we've built the first version. There's things as 2.0 and 3.0 releases, and things can change. Before we go any further, I have some things I want to dig into with Angela and her switch to Linux. But first, I want to mention our first sponsor, and that's Ting. Go to linux.ting.com right now if you would. That'll support this show and give you a $25 discount. Linux.ting.com. Ting's mobile that makes sense. We've been using Ting for more than a couple of years. We've saved over $2,000 by switching to Ting. You can find out how much you would switch by using their savings calculator right there on their homepage. You can go to linux.ting.com. Ting is truly mobile that makes sense because there's no contract and there's no early termination fee because there's no contract. And then you just pay for your usage, your minutes, your messages, and your megabytes, and whatever bucket you fall into, that's what you pay. And it's really easy because it's just a flat $6 for the line.
Yep, and you can bring your own device.
Yeah, really nice. And if you bring your own device, you'll get a $25 service credit by visiting linux.ting.com. And that'll probably pay for more than your first month.
At least.
And they've got GSM networks now and CDMA, so you can bring over the iPhone or your favorite Android phone. We've got an iPhone on Ting, we've got an HTC One on Ting, and a Nexus 5 on Ting. And they're just all great because we only pay for our usage. We're on Wi-Fi a lot, so we're saving a ton on data and voice minutes, which is
we use one for our nanny. It's a nice little perk benefit for her that she doesn't have to pay for her cell phone.
Yeah, and we look like big ballers. Meanwhile, it's $6 for that
big
line.
Ballers, yeah. Well, and I can communicate with her whenever I need to.
That's key.
That was the most important thing is that she had a good, reliable phone and phone service. So
and you can. The other nice thing too is once you get somebody on Ting, they're set because if they ever run into any kind of problems, Ting has no hold customer support. So you just call them at 1-855-TING-FTW and a real human being answers your phone. And I like that. They're there. They're set up. They're ready to answer your problems. I think that's a pretty nice perk. They also have all the features you'd expect, like voicemail, caller ID, tethering, hotspot, three-way calling, call forwarding, all the other features that you might want. But then a whole bunch more. Like you can turn devices on and off if you don't want to pay for them. This is really slick. Like if you get one of Ting's MiFi devices, because it's $6 to have data in your pocket. And then if you're going to go a couple of months where you don't need data in your pocket, you just go into the Ting dashboard and just turn it off.
That's awesome.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
And you just turn it back on. And now that Ting has CDMA and GSM coverage, you can roll over to either one. Just make sure you get a device that's capable of doing that. Or just for the cost, you just get one on each. Or if you just have a device already, you can get a $9 GSM SIM card from Ting and enable that. And it's good to go. It's so straightforward.
They also have a social presence, at least Twitter and Instagram. I believe they're Ting FTW on both.
And they're on YouTube as well. They have links at the top of their website, and they're putting out great videos all the time. They have a really active community at help.ting.com and on Reddit. There's a Ting subreddit. That is always really good. I visit that from time to time because I'm kind of a Ting enthusiast, so I'm always kind of checking out to see what's going on. Like, hey, how's the Edge being tested? Any Firefox OS devices on this kind of thing? It's really nice. It's truly no BS mobile service. They have a whole range of devices from like $50 devices up to like the high end, like Nexus 6 and the Moto X2 and the Samsung devices. All the really great devices over on Ting, and then you get that amazing dashboard. If you go to linux.ting.com, that's linux.ting.com. You get to put Linux in your URL bar. That's pretty cool. That's why I would go. But then you also get a $25 discount, and you support the Linux Unplugged show. Linux.ting.com. Huge thanks to Ting for sponsoring Linux Unplugged. You guys rock.
Ding, ding.
Okay, Andrews, let's get real here about your switch to Linux real quick. And I wanted to kick it off with an email that we got in from Kenny about your switch.
Oh, I haven't heard this,
I know
so
you haven't.
I am ready to be beat up.
No, see, Ange, you don't even probably fully understand, but there's been quite a bit of controversy and debate on this show about your choice of Arch over Ubuntu.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't really
Do they think I have a choice?
Well, see, Noah and I spent a lot of... Noah, do you have like a 10-second recap you can give Ange about how we almost went with Ubuntu and then we went with Arch?
So essentially, based on the hardware that we're originally going to set you up with, a long story short, it ended up being more beneficial to go with Arch due to some of the limitations of the installer of the alternative distro. And then once you got it and we saw how excited you were, and the chat room was more or less celebrating the fact that you were using quote-unquote real Linux, none of this Ubuntu stuff.
Wow.
And then we saw your reaction to that when we went back to redo it due to some of the issues we ran into the second time around, again, with the alternate distros. I opted to go with Antergos. And one that kept everything a similar experience to what you had on the original MacBook that we gave you to what you had on the Lenovo.
Mm-hmm. And the Bonobo she uses here in studio.
Right. But then the other side of that was there was a lot of people, and I would have been one of them, honestly, if I'm being honest about it. A week before I got there, if somebody would have said, we're going to switch my wife to Linux and she's never used Linux before, what should she use? The last answer that would have left my mouth was Arch or Antergos. And it wasn't until we actually got there, and it's one of those things that if you weren't there in the studio doing it with us, then you won't understand why we made that choice.
Heyo.
So Kenny writes in, and he says, in the past, I would have, kind of like Wimpy did, had suggested that you go with Ubuntu or one of its many flavors for Angela. But now, I might agree with your current decision to go with Antergos GNOME. I've had my girlfriend's Acer's laptop on Antergos GNOME for more than a year without issue, as has been the same with my own laptop. I did the initial setup, which involved no more or minor hassle than you would expect from setting up Linux on general hardware. I don't monitor the updates. She just pushes the button, and when the notification comes in, much the same as I do in fact now, it just provides a nice and easy option for updates. And if anything does go majorly wrong in the future, well, then I'll just boot off a USB stick, transfer files off, and reload if I can't fix it directly. There's no difference to what I did when we were both on Ubuntu. Plus, being on the latest stable kernel has fixed far more issues than it has introduced. I can't think of any negatives, actually, at the moment. Because Antergos is extremely finessed skin on Arch, it gives you a gorgeous GNOME desktop right from the get-go, whereas Ubuntu GNOME doesn't. From the login screen through to the desktop, it's just lovely. Angela has already been impressed by that, and I would. I venture I would easily notice the difference between GNOME 3.14 and 3.16. The whole notification things for start. Arch Linux provides an engine, but GNOME Antergos provides that polish and that beautifully veneered wheelhouse. I think this is the future for Ubuntu as well, with an Antergos-like shock absorber over the raw power of Linux. I wouldn't have gone with Elementary precisely because it's a Mac-like interface. It's like dressing a wolf up as a sheep. It may look soft and cuddly, but sooner or later it's going to bite you. When something looks the same, you expect it to be the same. And Linux is definitely not OS 10. Thank you, Torvalds. Aye, Kenny. So Kenny thinks it was a good call for you to go with Antergos, Andrews, and so you and I were kind of discussing a couple of issues that you ran into, and you had some questions you wanted to bounce off the Mumble Room and see if they had some answers for you. Do you kind of remember what they were?
Well, yeah. I forgot that I was going to be put on the spot. I should have
written them down.
Yes, because we were walking just before the show.
Yeah, I'll write them down.
I was like, here are the things that I.
Yeah,
so all right. So the first one was there are constant updates.
Yeah, updates.
And I feel inclined to, like it has a little pop-up and I feel inclined to touch it, well, because, it's a Yoga 3 touchscreen. I just don't even go near them because I have no idea what they're going to do or what needs to happen. And as it turns out, we did some updates and it did like the first part of a Wi-Fi update and it broke the Wi-Fi so it couldn't get the second update.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has a Broadcom wireless driver.
And then I was stuck at home without being able to connect to the Wi-Fi.
She had to wait for me to get home with my USB Ethernet adapter so we could finish the updates. Yeah, that's the first bump you ran into, really. And I don't know. I'm on the fence on the updates.
Yeah.
Because see, with Linux, like with OS 10 when you get an update, it's updating like iTunes or it'll update OS 10 or Safari, right?
Right.
But with Linux, every single program gets updated from everybody.
Yeah.
So all of your apps constantly getting updated, not just.
Yeah.
So it's not just OS updates. It's like a new version of the editor, a new version of LibreOffice, a new version of Firefox. So there's more reason to update too.
Yeah, I do. Somebody asked if I liked the Numix theme or whatever, but that's one that you changed.
I changed it to EvoPop.
Yeah, so we changed it because it was kind of hard. Like, so I got.
In fact, I'm using EvoPop on my screen right here. So
I ordered a mouse because I needed a smaller one, a more portable one, because I take this, here and or anywhere really. And I was able to find the settings to slow down the mouse cursor because, oh my gosh, like it was flying off the screen. But I couldn't tell that there was actually a circle to dial down the speed. Like I just guessed that there was. And so we did change the theme and I like the new theme better.
Yeah.
But let's see what else. I plugged in my iPhone.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So hold on. You're going too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's stop right there. So constant updates. Mumble Room, what's the consensus? Do you guys think that we should just let Angela go at it and update, or do you think she should wait for me to come in about once a week and install the updates?
So the second thing.
Really? Yeah,
I would accept.
Right?
Wait.
I would have to say that, if have a more experienced user guide her through the updates for a while. Once she gets the hang of it, then hand her the reins.
Yeah, I guess I could watch.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
My vote would be that she waits for you, because oftentimes, how often have you had that situation where you get the call from the user and they say, my computer isn't working. Well, what happened when it happened? And then they try to describe it to you and you ask them a very poignant question. Did you see an error that resembled this, or did this come up on the screen?
I don't know.
I don't know. A bunch of text scrolled across the screen.
Oh, come on. Give me some credit here.
I'm not saying that you're the person that's going to do that, but I'm just saying if text comes up on the screen or an error message is presented that doesn't make sense to you, it might. It's muscle memory. When we see stuff that we've seen a million times before, it stands out to us. And if that doesn't mean something to you, it might something that would be very, very important may not stand out to you.
So I'm thinking
that's a good idea. Just disable update alerts.
Well, no,
that'd be nice.
I suppose we could do that. I was just thinking like every Friday you and I could just do them or something.
Yeah.
I could just sit there and
after Tech Talk today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we.
So sorry. So I have an alternative. What about having certain, like giving Angela a list of packages that, like, if she sees the package like Linux and broadware, then she doesn't need, but everything else she can update it. So
I suppose we'd have to
provide her at least like 5 packages that she cannot update, and that's it.
I'm thinking maybe, but I'm thinking that list would probably change.
Chris, you can always put it the Pacman hold. Don't update this package.
Yeah, I suppose so.
In Pacman.conf.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go that far. I think just waiting once a week and doing that. And if it breaks, then we'll talk about it and we'll let people know. All right, so there's answer number 1. Now here's number 2, and I don't know if we may be able to get this cracked for you. Maybe, I don't know. We don't have a lot of iPhone users in here, but the number 2 problem that Angela has run into, Angela, go,
is plugging in my iPhone using the USB to Lightning adapter. I went ahead and plugged it in. Nothing automatically opened, which was actually kind of refreshing, to be honest.
Because you just hate it when stuff just pops up when you plug in your stuff? Because
when I plug in my phone to a MacBook, it opens iPhoto and iTunes.
Yeah, and the stuff just goes crazy. It's like,
and iTunes automatically starts
pulling in,
syncing and updating, and I don't really prefer that. I'd like to be able to tell it do it.
But what you're not looking to sync music necessarily. You're looking to pull your photos off.
Well,
the camera roll is the number 1 thing, right?
That's the biggest thing. I do like play counts, because there is a degree of accuracy to play counts in customizing playlists, but not super important anymore. So I opened Shutter.
So Lord Shadow is saying if we install lib mobile device, it might support it. I wonder if lib. Okay. Mobile device. I'll take a look at that.
I forgot the name of the photo program.
Oh, Shotwell?
Shotwell, yes. Yeah. So I opened Shotwell, and I was pleased to see that it showed a mobile device attached, my iPhone. So I clicked on it, and it said importing pictures in the middle of the screen.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well,
but
no.
What happened?
Well, the thing is, I don't want it to automatically import. I don't want all my pictures up and up in there.
Oh, really? Hello.
But because it also, like, at first I was like, oh crap, and then I saw in the bottom right hand corner where it said import selected or import all. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, good. So it's not going to automatically import, even though it kind of
Look like it was?
telling me that it's importing.
Yeah.
It just stays there. I just left it there for a while.
It never actually pulls them off?
No.
It sees them, but it doesn't pull them off?
No, it doesn't see them. It sees the device. It doesn't preview any pictures. And there's no like way to know if there's any pictures there. And those buttons aren't clickable, import all or import some. So.
Yeah, okay. And Lord Shadow, you say, here we go. You got something, the Arch Wiki on and hooking up the iPod. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. So one thing that I would like to say that I like is when I open up my laptop, I don't know how to get it to the password screen other than to use my finger and
swipe
pull
up.
the screen up. Yeah.
Yeah, you
swipe
like that?
up. I do. I do. It's so nerdy, but it's out of necessity because I don't know how to get it.
Spacebar.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've tried Escape before, but it didn't work. Anyway, so I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that is cool having the touchscreen, huh?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you like that so much.
Yeah.
Now, I know we had a third issue. I know there was a third item, but I just don't remember what it was. I do remember what it was.
What?
And this one may be one for Noah and you to talk about. The problem you had when you open up your bill spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So this isn't LibreOffice hate, Noah.
Brace
But
yourself, Noah.
I have my Dropbox set up, and I was going to just sync some files, but it's actually harder than I expected. I open up my bill spreadsheet, which I go off of, like...
Religiously? Yeah, that's how you track everything.
Yes, and...
With color codes and all kinds of stuff.
And first I got a couple errors, and I don't know what they were. It said something like unnamed.odt not found or something like that.
Okay,
Like it gave a file name.
Okay.
Anyway, so I got like 3 or 4 of those, and then it ended up opening up the spreadsheet, which is good, but all the formatting was gone.
Now, is this when you say that it says one file wasn't found? It makes me wonder.
Unnamed.
Do you have
unnamed.odt.
Do you have multiple? Was the spreadsheet? Is it connected to other spreadsheets by chance?
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
That is complicated.
So, when you say all the formatting is gone, are you talking about like text formatting, or are you talking about like the formulas,
like the color coding,
color shading? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't worked extensively with very, very complicated spreadsheets, but if you if there's a way to strip out the anything that's sensitive data, and if you could send me a copy of that spreadsheet, I would, if I could look at it, I'd probably be able to tell you why it's not working correctly or find out the answer for you.
Okay. Well, and I have a solution to it, and that is to use some kind of online
I was going to say, no, what do you think of like her using Office 365 for this kind of thing?
Yeah, actually, Office 365 is as a Linux user and as somebody who supports free and open source software. For me, I have to have an actual Office suite because that's just the way I prefer to work. But I can sell Office 360 or 365 or whatever they call it, no problem. Because A, it works flawlessly on Linux. It really does. And 2, if you think about it, the value there, if you're paying $99 a year versus the whatever it was, $300 or $400, you would be upgrading your Office software every 4 years anyway, right?
Oh, it's not free?
I don't think it's free. I think that there's a basic version that you can use for free, but I think it's $99 a year.
Well, I guess
it's $10 a month unless you pay.
I guess if it's for business.
Bonsai Joe says mint.com, not Mint Linux. Yeah, I do use mint.com for Jupiter Broadcasting and our personal. I've been using it since like 2009, I think.
Yeah, we've been using it for a long time.
We're early adopters of that. Yeah, definitely way before.
Yeah.
Angela, have you tried uploading that spreadsheet to Google Docs and see what it does with it?
No.
They would read all of the things?
So the thing is, yeah, it is. I mean, it's my bill spreadsheet. But the thing is, I tried to use Google Docs as my thing, but it is so pared down and limited that I just hate it. But I have started using it for like sponsor tracking and host payment tracking. So I am dealing with it to a degree.
It's just limited.
Yeah, I might be able to. And converting it like so that I could use it in Excel, it made it a little complicated. But anyway, I was thinking that if I used some sort of web-based program instead or solution, then I wouldn't have this. I could run Ubuntu next week if I wanted to.
Look at this. Wimpy is just giving us the command. I'm going to copy this right here. He just gave us the command to install mobile support in Arch.
Yay.
Yeah, so that should work pretty good.
Well, then I should have an update for you guys next week then.
By chance, have any of you tried Calligra Sheets, the Qt version of the spreadsheet program instead of the LibreOffice version?
No, I haven't.
So the last Mac user that we converted to Linux, he's I don't see him in the room here now, but he actually switched from Microsoft Office over to Calligra and said that it worked flawlessly for him. And I know he does a lot of spreadsheet. A lot of his work is spreadsheet centric.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So the thing is, like, after I opened it, I was afraid of modifying it in any way because it's my live Dropbox. You know, it's saved there. It's not like a copy. I was afraid that if I modified anything and saved it, that it would drop the formatting. And if I opened it elsewhere, it would not have it anymore.
And Wimpy, you have a suggestion maybe to help sort of bring some stability to the Arch setup?
Well, yeah, you were saying that you've got a Broadcom Wi-Fi device in that Yoga 3, and it was whilst you were doing a kernel update that you lost Wi-Fi.
True.
So I would suggest moving to the LTS kernel in Arch Linux on Angela's machine.
Okay.
Because that way you're not going to encounter as many kernel updates, far fewer in fact, and therefore, you know, it's just the applications and the utilities that are rolling then, and I think there's far less opportunity for breakage in that configuration.
That's probably a good point, and really, there's probably no disadvantage with her machine. I don't think her hardware requires like 318 or 4.0, whatever it is, but yeah, I guess.
He actually does make a good point on that. If she's on the LTS kernel with the less updates, you might have an actual more stable machine because you have less updates.
Yeah, I like that. That is a pretty good idea, Wimpy. That's a nice little touch. I'm going to write that down too. Move over.
The latest LTS kernel in Arch is 3.14.41, so it's not like ancient by any means.
LTS kernel. All right, I'm taking notes for you, Andrews. You like that?
And what you also need to do is if you've got any drivers, kernel drivers, you need to look for the -LTS suffix on the drivers you're using.
Right, that is true.
And that binds the two together, and then you're good.
Yes, and they get updated together. All right. So any other things?
Grader or Creator, I don't know, just pointed out that if I have it saved as .xlsx, that might be making it buggy.
Oh yeah, and you can save as XLS.
Yes, I almost forgot about that. The XLSX and the XL, whatever that file format actually is, doesn't work well in LibreOffice. If you have the older version file format saved, then it'll work flawlessly. Yeah. It's the newer Microsoft formats that's got some sort of proprietary garbage inside of the coding for the save files that corrupts it and anything else.
Yeah, I think that's good. So, Andrews, will you give us an update in the future on how it goes for you?
Yeah, definitely.
You keep us posted. And let's talk about something else you've been using pretty heavily since your switch to Linux.
Wine?
No, unfortunately for you, not.
I know.
Actually.
I actually just ordered a case because it disappeared from all the grocery stores. So
Your chocolate wine.
I had to order a case online that's $12.
Chat room, yes, she does drink chocolate wine. It is very true.
Choco Vine, chocolate wine.
Choco Vine. It is creamy Belgian chocolate with some sort of probably cheap red wine mixed in there. Yeah. Dutch chocolate. No, you've been using our new DigitalOcean droplet with our Minecraft server.
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about DigitalOcean real quick before we shift gears here. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own cloud server. We've got a few of them now, and one of them is a fairly beefy one running Minecraft that Angela and my son are playing on all the time now.
Yep, it's
really
pretty
cool.
awesome.
And one of the things that's really great about DigitalOcean is it starts at only $5 a month. And you can get started in 55 seconds. So I knew for a really great price and really no time at all, I could get my own droplet spun up. And at $5, you're going to get 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, one CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. I just knocked it up a couple, so I'm paying like $20 a month right now, I think, or something. And the reason why I went with my DigitalOcean droplet, because I wanted like lots of transfer and lots of storage and lots of RAM. And I was looking around at like the hosted Minecraft solutions.
And no downtime.
Yeah, no downtime.
Always
too.
running.
Yeah. And, the hosted Minecraft solutions that are dedicated for this are way more expensive, way less control, and I don't get to SSH in and get a command line. And with DigitalOcean, I can take snapshots, I can manage it, so if you guys want me to back something up before you make a big change, we can do that. It's really easy. And, I think the other thing is we have a international audience, and a lot of you are in other parts of the world, and DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, Germany, and London. They have a really great brand new one in Germany that has just incredible connectivity, 40 gigabit E to each hypervisor, their fastest SSDs yet. It's really, though, it's a great service because for the price, you can get started in 55 seconds and get up there and you can do anything you need to do. You own this box. You get root access. There's an HTML5 console. It's based on Linux using KVM as the virtualizer, SSDs throughout the entire stack, so you get incredible disk I/O. No longer need those fiber-attached SCSI RAID arrays with the 10,000 RPM drives. Those are gone. And now you can create something locally on your own machine in a Docker container and push it up to your own droplet or set up a machine up there. And DigitalOcean has an amazing interface to make it all possible. It's super intuitive. This control panel freaking rocks. It sets the bar. Nobody else can touch it. People are trying to rip it off, but they can't. Every time they try to do something, DigitalOcean does it better. And a point to that, they just revved their API. The new version of their API came out that allows you to take their straightforward dashboard and bring all of that functionality on your own. You can take it with you. You can write it into your applications. You can take advantage of the community-written applications. You can snap it into your management infrastructure. You can just write a quick couple of lines of Bash script or Python or Ruby code to do something like take a snapshot of your machine before you do a system update. And then when you're on that DigitalOcean management where you get the HTML5 console, you can do full DNS management, you get snapshots, and you can do templates. You get one-click installations of things like Docker and GitLab and Ruby on Rails. All of this is Linux technology, open source stuff. It's really awesome code. And go check out Dooku. It's one of the projects they contribute to make this possible. They also work with upstream distributions like CoreOS and FreeBSD to make sure you get the best experience of those on DigitalOcean. $5 a month, people. And when you use our promo code DOUnplugged, DOUnplugged, that's all one word, it's lowercase. It's going to give you a $10 credit. You can try out that $5 rig 2 months for free. Go get your own Linux box up in the cloud with crazy, crazy fast access, SSD drives. It's a real server that you get to control, and it's super neat. There's so many great things you can do with it. I've got an OwnCloud rig, a BitTorrent sync rig, a Minecraft rig. I've got machines we've used for production purposes. We've got a droplet we use to bounce video signals off for remote hosts like Noah during Linux Action Show. There's so many use cases for DigitalOcean. They can be your backend infrastructure or just use them for hourly testing. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code DOUnplugged. Get a $10 credit. DOUnplugged, you just apply it to your account. You can do it anytime. In fact, if you created your account and you forgot to apply DOUnplugged, go use it. Go apply it. You'll get that $10 credit. DOUnplugged. Over at DigitalOcean.com. And a big thanks to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Linux Unplugged program. You guys are rocking. And Angela's been using that droplet like a fool. So Popey didn't make it here today, it doesn't look like. But Heaven's Revenge and I wanted to talk about this story. Ubuntu has developed Ubuntu Snappy Core. We've talked about it before, and it has, in this last week, taken up a ton of traction. This is a brand new version of Ubuntu that's not even really fully baked and made shipping on anything as far as I know. But today, Canonical and Microsoft and GE and Acer announced a partnership where they're going to become allies and work on the Internet of Things devices, including, from GE's standpoint, a frickin' fridge that runs Ubuntu.
A frickin' fridge.
A fridge that runs Ubuntu. Okay. A Linux fridge. And they're all running off of Ubuntu Snappy Core. Ubuntu Snappy Core is the transactionally updated version of Ubuntu. You install an update. It installs that update to a new partition.
Why are we shocked that a fridge is running Linux? Like, because it shouldn't be able to. I'm like, why is that like, oh my gosh?
Why does it need to? My point is, I think the Internet of Things is a bit of a joke, but But I'm glad they're choosing a good distribution. I mean, at least they're choosing Linux, and so they're using this transactionally updated version of Ubuntu called Ubuntu Snappy. And the way it works is you install an update, it writes those updates to a new file system. You reboot, it boots into that new file system. If it fails to boot, it just boots into the old one. It's kind of like a guaranteed update system. So that's Ubuntu Snappy Core. That's how you update the system. Now there's these new packages coming out called snaps. They're a new version of click packages. We're taking click packages and we're calling them snaps.
This is such a cute language.
It's very adorable.
Clicks and snaps and wow.
But I look at this and I'm starting to get a little glazed over. And Heavens, I know you wanted to mention that the snaps, people might have maybe a bad interpretation of how snap packages work, because I think people are assuming they're transactionally updated packages. That means you'll never have a package that fails to install, etc. Do you want to jump in and sort of... You've been digging into this. You've been looking specifically about how Snappy Core is architected, and I know you have some observations here.
Oh yeah, I've been looking at this for quite a few days, and Canonical is probably the worst source of information that you could have found in order to understand this system. But they actually have, let's say, one version of a piece of software. It's all static and installed under a version number directory in the file system. Then, after that, they just, by when they mean transactional, as the version numbers change in the directory structure, they change the symlink as a current to the different version number in the file system.
Pretty simple,
So
really.
when they mean transactional, they just mean changing a symlink.
Right,
and
to
they
the
have
other one.
everything statically in there. So this is a very bloated system.
Because-
Everything is within this package.
You mean everything, like if a program requires a library, instead of using the library that's already on the computer, it pulls down that library with itself. It brings its own version of the library, kind of like the PBI system does.
Completely. There's no reuse of system, barely any reuse of system libraries. They're all self-contained packages, which are statically compiled and possibly in a little LXC containers.
But from what you're looking into, Snap packages themselves are not transactional. Like when I install an OwnCloud Snap and then I want to go to OwnCloud 802, that's not a transactional update.
In the traditional sense of transactional, no, because there's stuff that can fail within a certain package. To me, transactional means all or nothing. So even like a file can fail to be put onto the file system. That traditionally is not transactionally consistent.
Okay.
But where it is transactional, and I'm not sure if this is implemented yet or if it's on the roadmaps, but it was certainly presented. If you take that OwnCloud example and you upgrade from OwnCloud 801 to OwnCloud 802, and there's a SQL schema change, it will make that schema change on the database and update. And then if you find a problem with that version and you roll it back to 801, those schema changes are undone, and your database.
What's tracking
goes
the
back
schema
to
changes? What rolls those schema changes back?
I haven't looked into it in that much detail, but I know that this was the aspiration for what it can do.
They would have to be looking at the block changes on the system, or at least copying everything like a database completely separately between one version and the other, or they have to do the block level differential.
Yeah, and maybe that'll be achievable.
And that would be
through
only by ButterFS.
Yeah,
or overlay FS.
Right, but their current implementation is using extended 4.
Yeah, they require extended 4 at the moment.
But I spent some time talking to some of the devs about this, and it whilst I learned a lot, it wasn't clear to me how much of what I was being told is what's available now versus where the aspirations are. But I very much did get the impression that there's still some work for Canonical to do to flesh this out as a project. And whilst they're encouraging people to get involved, I was asking, well, could I build one of the derivative flavors of Ubuntu based on Snappy in the same way they're proposing to do for 15.10? They're going to have their plan is to have a desktop image of Unity next using the Snappy packaging. And I was kind of encouraged to maybe not dive into it that deeply just now, but to follow what was going on with Ubuntu's developments with their desktop, and certainly start look at packaging individual applications. But this is the other interesting thing about Snappy. What you consider a package traditionally and what is a Snappy package could either be the same thing or very different. So if you take something like the Mate desktop that's made up of lots of different components, such as the Mate Session Manager and the Mate Power Manager and the Kaja File Manager and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. Each of those are separate packages at the moment. But in the Snappy landscape, the Mate desktop, the whole thing, could be a Snappy package.
Right.
So you could move the whole desktop environment between major and minor version releases with a single package. And this is a bit similar to what Steam are doing, right? Because Steam provide effectively their sandboxed runtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, each one of those Snappy YAML files has dependencies that you can note, and then it would basically update the entire desktop, even though you're updating all of them at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that they were saying that they were going to do Unity as a single, or what will be Unity 8, Unity Next, as a single Snappy package to start with. So the whole desktop environment will be one package.
All of its libraries and everything.
Yeah, and then what they'll do is then start to tease that apart. So they'll start to pull bits apart from it. So different bits that make up the Unity desktop are delivered as different snaps. Yeah, so they're going to start with the whole thing because that's relatively easy as far as I understood it, and then start to tease it apart into sort of the subcomponents. But I think there'll still be bigger package, there'll be more like meta packages in a way, but bigger runtimes.
I think they are very quickly about to leave people behind. I'm seeing a lot of confusion about the Software Center still. People don't understand how this fits in with that, and they're not getting the message that the Software Center is kind of going away. People, I think they're starting to, because so much is happening so fast, fastly, you have Ubuntu Core, Snappy Core, then first you have Ubuntu Core, then you have Snappy Core, then you have click packages, now you have snaps, and it's all happening very fast, and actually nothing's really shipped, right? But terms have changed, things have been iterated, and I think a lot of people out there are kind of getting left behind a little bit. But I think all of this kind of seems like a very compelling, interesting direction. Like they're truly doing something really unique here. And yes, snaps might be specific to Ubuntu. And there is some question about the snap backend being proprietary and the snap frontend not. And that's all kind of concerning. But in some ways, I'm kind of excited because in a way, like you could be a couple years down the road, you could have a systemd powered snap installing converging desktop that Canonical is shipping. They could have the most unique, compelling Linux desktop out there in some respects if they pull all this off. Let alone the Internet of Things crap, which I'm not excited about. I don't know. I don't know if it's proprietary. You think it's proprietary?
So, what I don't understand it.
Yeah, go ahead, Rust. No. Okay.
Yes, so what I don't understand is, won't this introduce DLL hell? Like you have 3 different versions of the same library on the system because it's like an image, it's not a shared library.
Well, I mean, the programs will be statically linked to their specific library, so they're not going to get confused, but you're going to have a ton of them on the file system. Yeah. But I feel like that's an old argument. I mean, we all have huge hard drives.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is how Android does it at the moment, so whether you know it or not, if you need shared libraries in your APKs, you don't just have the shared libraries that you need multiple times over, but you have them for the different architectures as well.
Yeah.
This is also a very simplified version of what Bedrock is doing.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Right. Go ahead.
This is actually like the issue of it's a lot more packages. Yes, but those packages are usually tiny. In comparison to how much we have as hard drives or just SSDs now are gigantic for cheap now, it's not a big deal anymore. And like if I have an extra 100 megs, whoop-de-doo, I have 3 terabytes.
Yeah, it did make more sense on the time of dial-up, and every kilobyte you had to transfer mattered. That, I think...
so size doesn't really matter is what we're going to have.
I think it is what we're saying. Size doesn't matter, though.
Well, if it's a tiny package.
Yeah. It's
My guess would be they're going to be around 3 times the size that we're used to now.
Wow.
That's perfect, isn't it? That's great, huh?
I'm on board.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see where they go with this. I don't know how they're going to pull it off and transition, but they got a lot of transitions coming up. They got a lot to move people through.
There is a lot of terms in Linux.
Yeah. It's great, isn't it?
No. Yeah. It's like every time I think I've got one down, then another is thrown, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what does that do?
We create like 100 new ones every week.
I know,
to keep
right?
everybody confused.
Oh, man.
All right, so I want to talk about chip.
I want to talk about Ubuntu Rodent.
Okay, we'll get that. We'll do that. You could probably put that on the chip. So I think this is going to be. I think you're finally. This is the device that's going to save our financial situation, because at a $9 computer you can't even balk at that. That's something.
It's a wearable, right? Where you feed an animal, you keep it alive.
I remember those. Those were the worst. No, not that. Before we get to that, though, I want to tell you about something that's the best. That's Linux Academy. Go over to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and get our special 33% unplugged discount. How about
that's
that?
Awesome. That is awesome.
I know. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Linux Academy freaking rocks. It's going to help you take your skill set up to the next level. So if you got like a review coming up, or you want to land a client, or you just want to feel better about yourself, maybe challenge yourself,
or learn all the words like I still need to do.
Or another great one is because they have 7+ distributions you get to choose from, you can like migrate. So like if you want to go from Ubuntu to CentOS or something like that, you choose from the 7 Plus distros. All of the courseware automatically adjusts. The labs, the virtual machines automatically get set to that distro. You've got self-paced courses with over 1,400 videos that you can watch. They've just rolled out a whole bunch of new stuff. I was just talking about this on Coda Radio yesterday, Angela, but how much do you love this? Just a couple of weeks ago, Linux Academy rolled out a new feature called Nuggets.
Oh, this sounds good already.
It's like a tiny bits of sparkly wisdom from experienced sysadmin and DevOps, just like one little bit of wisdom. So it's not a whole course.
It's Cliff Notes.
Yeah. And like
That's
it just
amazing.
makes you do like one thing a lot better. And so like here's an example of creating a Pixie boot server for automated installs, setting up single sign-ons with Active Directory and Linux. Like that's a huge one for our audience.
Yeah.
Or what is Active Directory like from a Linux user's perspective, and how do I make it work with my box? Like that's great. Here's LDAP, Ubuntu 15.04, and why we care. Configuring Route 53 DNS. Quickly deploying Active Directory, open file management, foreground and nutshell, systemd versus systemv init, setting up and using static routes. Look at all of these. Editing an ISO image DOSBox, encrypting a folder, changing Linux kernel parameters, securing SSH. It goes on and on. These are all just one little quick courseware video courses. You can go in there. And then, of course, as a Linux Academy subscriber, you get access to all of the content. They just rolled out their new Red Hat certified system stuff.
Yeah. Like you can you subscribe and it's just kind of like Netflix. It's like a Netflix subscription, but for education on Linux.
Stuff that makes you smarter.
Yeah, and you can do your own pace, like on the screen right now.
Did you know that a little bit ago, Linux Academy announced a grant program? They're going to do a $5,000 open source grant program for open source licensed projects. People in the Linux Academy community are going to get to vote on which projects get the funding.
Oh, how do you submit?
They're going to have a page up, and I'll let people know. But here's how you can vote. I know this so far because they're rolling this out in bit by bit. They've rolled out a new club that you can be part of, the Founders Club, and in there's a bunch of perks like access to beta content and new stuff and new site development stuff, but also you get to vote on where the grant money goes towards. And you just have to be an open source licensed project to qualify for the grant. So there's probably a few projects in our audience that could get that money.
Absolutely.
And if you're going for your Red Hat certified system administration stuff, they've got courseware up on that, and it has been a major hit on Linux Academy. Their DevOps Essentials course was just updated. 50 video nuggets are now live. AWS CSA Pro courses available, and a lot more content coming all the time over at Linux Academy. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
What I love about Linux Academy is we've always got something new to talk about because they're constantly pushing out new stuff. And those guys just must be working 24/7 over there. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Get our Linux Unplugged discount. It's a great service built by Linux and open source enthusiasts, so it really makes a difference. They're not a generic training site, right? This is what they do. That's what makes them so awesome. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Now, it was actually, I think it was Popey it wasn't Popey, but it was somebody in the Mumble Room that told me about Chip. Chip is the world's first $9 computer, and it's already phenomenally successful on Kickstarter, so they don't need our attention. They've got 20,000 backers. They had a goal of $50,000.
With 24 days to go?
Yeah, they had a goal of $50,000, and they've raised $1 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so here, I want to play Chip for you. This is so cool, and of course, it's a Linux-based computer.
This is Chip, the world's first $9 computer.
Connect over composite, VGA, or HDMI.
Chip does computer things. Save your documents to Chip's onboard storage. Surf the web over Wi-Fi. Play games with a Bluetooth controller. But wait, there's more.
This is Pocket Chip. It makes Chip portable. Take Chip, put it into Pocket Chip, and you can use Chip anywhere.
How cool is that?
Very. You might have noticed
retro.
Chip looks a little different than every other computer.
Because we built Chip to fit into your projects.
And we're so excited to see what you can do with a $9 computer. Kickstarter, we need your help. To make Chip for $9, we need to buy components in extremely large quantities. Help us make the $9 computer a reality and back Chip on Kickstarter today. Thanks.
What do you think, Ange?
That's adorable.
The $9 computer.
Well done.
And you can put it into your projects.
Kind of looks like BMO.
It does a little bit. Anybody in the Mumble Room been following Chip or backed it even? Any backers in there?
I've been following it and nearly backed it. But
You haven't pulled the trigger, huh? How come?
Well, the shipping costs to the UK are more than twice the price of the device. And the delivery estimate is September 2016.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they have some that are January and May.
Oh, you pay more to get it sooner?
I don't know exactly. I'm looking at that right
Maybe
now.
it's just because of the
It was just a bit far out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
gigahertz processor,
Yeah.
512 megs of RAM, 4 gig of storage, got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I really like the thing that you kind of poo-pooed, Ange. Let's see, where is it?
Oh yeah, the Game
chip,
Boy looking.
Yeah, the pocket chip.
Oh, it's like a PDA.
But look at this thing. Like, so if this was a little computer for like Dylan or Abby, like it's got a pencil hole, so you can put a pencil in it to hold it up, which is adorable. Come on.
Oh my gosh, that is great.
And it's got the GPIO pins available, so you can hook accessory devices up to it right there at the top. I don't know. It's got a 5-hour battery. I think it's a pretty neat idea. I really want to play with one of these. I'm not going to back it because I don't have any use for it, but I am so thrilled that computers...
Oh, I'm sure you do.
I don't know.
Something.
You think?
I don't know. It looked like it was pretty versatile.
Yeah.
I do have an idea that you can use it for. If you were to get a few chip devices, you can use them use one as an LDAP server, one use as a Kerberos server, one use as a miniature file server, one
DNS
used
server.
as a DNS server. Exactly.
Have a whole network.
Where's the Beowulf cluster joke? Hold on. That's the Beowulf cluster joke used to be right on tip of tongue for everybody. WW, this reminds me of the Ouya. Do you think that means it's going to flop?
I don't know, but like everybody thought that Ouya was going to be like the best thing, and it's gonna, we're gonna have, this portable gaming, and then it just totally flopped.
Yeah, we totally have one of those.
Well, that's because people
It's still in the box. It came out for like a day.
Yeah, the Ouya was a big flop. You're right.
Well, the Ouya was also it was a flop just in general. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, an Android console. I don't care.
Does anybody want
wrong.
our Ouya thing?
Ouya.
Ouya.
It was wrong. They were off the mark with Ouya. This is different. This is more about This is a component almost to a larger build. You buy this to build this into something else. I could see.
Right. So there's
So
a lot more opportunity.
Arduino and Pi doesn't.
$9. I don't know, to be honest. Because you get a used Pi for $9. So
the Pi is quite a bit bigger. It's like three times as big.
That's true. It is bigger,
and it looks like like things that you'd insert into
like a teddy bear or something, or
no, a tower. No, the Pi does.
Oh yeah. This looks like something you could insert into like another toy. Like this chip looks like you could put it inside a speaker. You could put it inside a teddy bear and make it do sounds. Like this is so small. It's as small as a VGA cable, basically.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it could be a full Linux desktop.
Arduino.
Yeah. This whole area is pretty competitive. I don't think it's necessarily bad to have another competitor in this space, though. And these guys kind of have a unique approach to it. I like that they're...
Arduino is also much more limited than this thing. This has a lot more already built into it, so it can do things by itself. Like it has video out and everything like that. Arduino does not.
True, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. And they're working on, you guessed it, an app store for this thing.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Everything has apps.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do like the idea of the pocket chip. I think that's my favorite part. I'm with Imacon. Like that's what really got me, because like that's like, okay, now I'm starting to see it. I get it now.
Jeez.
The pocket chip looks so cool. Probably because it looks like something I would have played with in the 80s. It's just exactly that's why they designed it like that. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes if you guys do want to back that. Like Angela said, they've still got 24 days to go, so you got plenty of time to get in on it. They don't need your money. That's great though.
They don't need your money.
And now they're going to be able to buy it massive quantities, I would think. So
China.
Yeah.
Didn't they only ask for 50,000?
Yeah. And they got 1 million. So there you go. And hey guys, when's the last time we saw a device like this that where they're pimping the fact that it runs Windows? You guys remember? Anybody? Hold on.
The Pi.
That calls for. Yeah. Exactly. That's right. I mean, nobody... Yeah, the Raspberry Pi 2 is going to eventually have some crappy stripped-down version of Windows, whoop-de-doo, but nobody launches their premier device on Kickstarter like this and talk about how it runs Windows or how it's going to run Windows ARM. Nobody does it. It's always Linux.
Well, technically, the Pi also just said it could.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I say good for them. So it's by Next Thing Co., and it's the chip, and it's Kickstarter.com, and you just search for the chip on there. It's like super successful. So here, Andrew, why don't you take this? This is the notes,
all right,
and I'll read those when I get home for the things we're going to do to your machine. Do you feel like we covered everything for you today? I mean, I know you're going to have another batch of stuff probably.
Yeah.
But, do you have any final questions?
We just need to get my second monitor.
Yeah.
Hooked up to it.
Yeah, because it has a micro HDMI out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need to get input on that? or?
No, I just have to get an adapter.
Okay,
It's no bigs. It's just got to get a micro HDMI adapter, which we don't have one, of course. All right. Well, then we will leave it right there. I should probably mention before we go, last week was Matt's last episode of Linux Unplugged. He, though, is launching a whole new set of projects. He's like in a super creative phase right now over at matthartley.com to find out what he is up to. Angela, though, thank you for joining us and going through the rundown. I'd love to have you guys join us next week. We do this show live on Tuesdays over at jblive.tv, 2 p.m. Pacific on a Tuesday. But go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that converted to your local time zone. And then we will... What? You look at me like, what?
No.
Oh. And then, because we have the Mumble Room. We've got all that stuff. We'd love to have you guys in here. Mumble Room, is there any other final notes you guys want to touch on before we run this week? All right, so just a little bits of details before we get out of here. Go over to linuxactionshow.reddit.com. That makes this show even better. linuxactionshow.reddit.com is where you can submit stories, you can submit feedback, you can submit anything like that you think would make this a better show, feedback threads, things like that. Angela, why don't you plug some of the stuff you're at? People might want to follow you on the network.
Okay, so I am doing Women's Tech Radio, and we are currently, we've released 2 Linux Fest Northwest live interviews that we did. The first was with Scarlett. She works for KDE and Ubuntu, and she's a Linux for lifer.
Yeah, she is.
And that's the title of the show. So check that one out. It's a quick one. And then the most recent one, it actually releases tomorrow.
Yeah. Episode
Wednesday.
26.
Yep, episode 26 is Andrea Frost. She was a firefighter in Alaska and injured her leg and decided to go back to school and get a math degree so she could teach math. But one of the prerequisites was to take a computer course, and that changed her life. She now has a master's in computer science.
Check out the Faux Show. Apple Watch versus Android Wear. I thought that was a pretty fun episode.
Yeah.
Faux Show.
Faux Show returned yesterday.
And it's live after Linux Action Show if you catch Linux Action Show. So there you go. That'd be a good one to join us on. Because then you get to watch like Linux Action Show and that show. It's a whole lot of show. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning this week's episode of Linux Unplugged. We'll see you right back here next week. It's a good show, Andrews. Thanks for being here.
Didn't realize you had a time constraint there.
Yeah, well, we just have the music play out.
I know.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So, did you guys see the news about Floss Unplugged?
I did a little bit. I just haven't gotten any links about it.
So we are working on a new show that will not be hosted by myself. It'll be hosted by Benjamin Carencia, I think is how you say his last name. Carencia. You may have seen him on our shows before. We've interviewed him a couple of times. He is a developer. He speaks at a lot of conferences. He's an open source evangelist. He's a former Firefox community release manager. I think he used to be an Ubuntu member, but is no longer. And I've bumped into him for a while, and so he and I have been sort of talking back and forth about him creating a show with him and his co-host Alex, a show called Floss Unplugged, which would be more focused on the free and Libre aspects of open source, and including Firefox OS devices and things like that. So it's still early.